What's up YouTube, Tech All-Star here, and in today's video I'm going to be going over my Cammus C5 wheel settings. Now I've had a couple people ask me what my settings were, and I've been kind of experimenting with the settings over the few months that I've had this wheel, and this wheel is actually really good, and this wheel actually really surprised me and is really powerful for how small it is and how cheap it is as well. We're going to get right into it. So first things first, right now I'm using only 900 degrees of steering angle. Back when I was using my Thrustmaster T150, I used to do 1080. But most of the cars that I drive on Assetto are 900 degrees, so just run 900 degrees. My power is at 90%, and usually with these direct drive wheels, or at least for me, I don't really want this power or the force feedback to be too high because it causes oscillation and it makes the wheel spin a little too fast. And for me personally, although the self-steer is really good, I still want to be able to drive the car, if you get what I'm saying. I don't want the self-steer to be so good that the car is just driving itself. I still want to be able to put effort into my driving. Now for these settings, we have natural dampening, natural friction, natural inertia, and idle spring. I turn all of these down to 0, and the reason for that, for drifting anyway, I don't want any unnecessary vibrations that can cause the wheel to oscillate while it's counter steering. And so with the idle spring, you can kind of change how fast the wheel will self steer. And to be honest, like even changing this setting right here, like 2, 3, 4, 5%, like drastically makes the wheel not self steer anymore. So I just leave that at 0. I used to have it at 3% because I was trying to hinder the self steer a little bit on the wheels. A Mustang that I drift in real life doesn't have much self steer at all with the way it's set up right now. But for now, we got it at 0. Then we're gonna go to game effects. With my game effects, I have my effects intensity at 86%. Again, I don't want max power out of the wheel. That's not really necessary for me, and that's not really how I want to drive with the wheel, spinning super fast. CF filter, and to be honest, I don't really know exactly what that does, but I left it at 50% because I've raised it and lowered it, and it didn't really feel all that great to me, so I left that at 50%. Then when I Q factor, this one was at 50%, but I ended up putting it up to 100% because I noticed that it actually gave the wheel a little bit more feel to it when I was driving the cars in Assetto. Now for game friction, again, that causes vibration, so I turned that off. And similarly for game spring, let me see, I'm trying to remember what this does. So that's like the centering force feedback. I wasn't a big fan of that as well because it seemed like it wanted to force the wheel back to center, and that was a big hindrance on controlling the car, and it was causing extra oscillation in the wheel, which is again something that I'm not a big fan of. Now we want to look at our force feedback settings in Assetto Corsa, just the basic settings that the game comes with. So you go to your settings, over to Assetto Corsa, and then you go to force feedback. And right here, our gain is at 40%, and then our minimal force is 5%. And everything else is pretty much turned down to 0 because it's a direct drive. You don't really have to have all these settings like you do with the Logitech to get the feel that you need out of the cars that you're driving. So then we go over to custom shaders patch, and then you're gonna go down to force feedback tweaks. And we're gonna activate that, of course. So right here, we have additional post-processing, and it says range compression. And for me, I've tested this really high, tested it really low. And my medium ground for the steering feel that I want is 170%. And to me, what this does, just like it says, it compresses the little tiny forces such as like bumps, the tire grip, or the way the car is moving. It compresses all of that force feedback and translates it into information and feel for you in the wheel so you can better understand what's going on with the car through your hands. If you make it too high, it makes the steering a little too stiff, a little too heavy, and oscillates. And you have to find that middle ground of not too soft and not too stiff, basically. For me, 170 seems to be the best with the steering feel. And then now we're going to go down to our output real steering forces to the wheel, put that as active, and we put the wheel peak torque at 5.9. Even though this wheel is a C5 and it's advertised as a 5 Newton meter wheel, based on my research and talking to other people that have this wheel, apparently it actually peaks at 7 Newton meters. And I did have it at that setting, but I felt like it was again a little too heavy, a little too stiff for my liking with the wheel. And I want to have the longevity of the wheel and good steering feel without it being too difficult to move the steering wheel or make adjustments as I'm driving the car. So I tested this high and low, and I came up with 5.9. And of course, I tested all these settings with VDC cars or pro cars, and the reason why I did that is because those cars are somewhat the most demanding on your steering wheel, because those cars have a lot of grip and a lot of power, and you have to be committed with those cars. Got the feel right for myself. And with these settings, I got second place in a VDC comp, or a VDC style comp I should say. It was from Enforce, which I posted previously. And then I just recently, this past weekend, got first place in me and my friends drift competition called Diverse Tribe Drift, and we just did round 1, and I just won that competition with these wheel settings. So if you guys have any other questions, just let me know. These wheel settings feel amazing to me, and this is a fantastic wheel. It has really surprised me on how well it is and how user friendly it is. But stay tuned for more videos that I'll have out. I'll be doing teaching videos and information videos about the S550 Mustang, and as well of drifting and drifting techniques in general, to teach everybody, you know, all the knowledge that I've gained, and to think about the sport in a more technical aspect, to kind of get newer drivers to wrap their heads around on where their mindset needs to be at when you're performing these techniques. So with that said, be sure to subscribe, leave a comment down below on what videos you'd like to see, and I'll see you guys in the next one.